Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
Welcome back to the Australian Business Podcast. Zara, how are you?
Good, Jordan. Good to be back again. How are you?
Good. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been a busy week this week.
What have you been up
to? Been doing quite a lot of meta advertising at the moment. So yeah, a lot of like strategies, a lot of creative work comes into that, a lot of data analysis actually. Fitting actually, yeah. Looking at kind of like what's working and understanding what's not working, and then like ways that we can kind of strategize in terms of what's next for the business. So
cool.
Yeah, it's been good. What about you?
We have a new hire, which has been good.
Oh, exciting.
So that's cool to really double down on our content on the SEO side of things.
Amazing.
So that's been cool. Been managing that.
Yep.
Not much else, to be honest, just working away, plodding along. A few podcasts here and there, which have been good.
Nice.
Today we're talking about data and making data-driven decisions.
We are.
In the marketing world.
Yep.
Cool. So your domain.
My domain.
So you shall lead
data. I do enjoy data. I think it's so important for any sort of business decision that you're making. Just having a way that you can kind of store that data, and then ways that you can kind of look back on it to make the right decision moving forward, or the most educated decision moving forward.
So true. In both of our realms, in the accounting space as well. We use a lot of financial data to help business owners make decisions. Yep. And today we're going to be talking about more so the marketing side of things, where we're looking at metrics and numbers and click-through rates and all the fun mumbo jumbo.
Yes.
So to jump in, what are some examples of metrics that you're looking at, some of the KPIs for different types of contents, I guess, across different platforms?
Yep. Yeah, good question. And so I think when we're talking about like video content, for example, it's things like hook rates and hold rates, so understanding how engaging that piece of content is. And then if we're shifting into like the paid ad space, then we're talking about things like click-through rates. So of people that have clicked on your ad, how many people have actually made it through to the website? And then we might be looking at things like conversion rates. So of that piece of content that we've created, of those people that we've sent to the website, how well is our website doing at actually converting those customers and converting those customers into sales? So, we might also be looking at average order value. So is there a way that as a business owner, we can be increasing that average order value so that when we are getting people across to the website, they're spending more money? And that can be through like upsells, it can be through product add-ons, it can be, there's quite a number of ways that we can do that. And then we might also be looking at, return on investment, I guess, as a bigger picture. Obviously through Facebook itself, some of the conversations will be like return on ad spend, but that's quite isolated to the platform independently. And so when we're talking about like bigger picture, we're talking about return on investment. So ways that...
What's the difference there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So return on ad spend is isolated to the amount of money that's spent on a particular advertising platform. So when we're looking at Meta ads, for example, it's the amount of money that we've given Meta to show our ads.
Yep.
So it doesn't take into account servicing fees that you might be paying an agency. It doesn't take into account kind of any other fees that might be involved with that. If you're doing a giveaway, for example, and you're a skincare brand and you're doing a $500 giveaway and you're running ads to support that giveaway, it doesn't take into account the $500 kind of gift equivalent as well. So when we look at return on investment, we kind of bring all of those different figures, all of that money that you've spent, and holistically, how much money have you made as a result? Yeah,
that's super important because a lot of the time it's just that ROAS. Everyone's looking at that ROAS figure, but you need to take into account if you are using an agency, that cost, if you have an internal person doing it, what are those wages? How do they fit into that calculation too?
Yeah,
so it's
totally.
Super important.
Yeah.
What are some of, let's stick with Facebook and stay in the Facebook ads realm. What other metrics are we looking at? Like we mentioned click-through rate. Once we know what that is, what can we do with that information? How can we make it better?
Yeah. So you've kind of got like industry standards or like minimums of like what your click rate should be regardless of your industry.
Yeah.
So for example, we might say that, at a minimum, we want a 1% click-through rate. And then as a business or as a marketing specialist, what you do is you identify ways that you can improve that click-through rate. So that can be through changing up your creative. It can be through different thumbnails. It can be through looking at your copy and ways that you're kind of really honing in on a pain point for an individual or a potential customer. So what we really want to do is once we've kind of figured out, we've run some ads and we know what our baseline is, it's always about ways that we can improve that and ways that we can do better.
Yep.
And so there's definitely ways to improve your click-through rate. There's ways to improve your conversion rate. And so what you really want to be doing is focusing on those. So if it's a conversion rate and we're looking at like our website and the operational kind of performance of our website, ways that we can improve that. So then regardless of how much traffic we're sending to the website, our website's doing a better job of converting those customers.
And that's why it's super important to constantly be revising what you're doing in that A/B testing.
Yep.
Can't just sit and forget.
Absolutely. And, having platforms and software in place like Google Analytics and your Metapixel and all these sorts of things so that you can be tracking what's working and what's not. And then constantly, I guess, health checking is kind of what the terminology that we use. And so it's constantly looking at the health and the performance of those campaigns and then optimizing. Cool, this is what it's doing right now, but what can it be doing and how can we be improving that? And so it could just be that maybe you improve your click-through rate from 1.5 to 2.5. But again, if we kind of like zoom out and we look at a bigger picture, what that 1% can actually do in revenue for our business, it can be quite a lot. And then same with like the conversion rate of the website, if we're operating at like a 2% conversion rate, which sounds quite low, but that's quite common, if we can improve that to 2.5%, if you're converting an extra 0.5% of every person that lands on your website, you can kind of see at scale what that can do for business growth.
And how often should you be checking these figures and A/B testing?
So in terms of if you're running meta ads, so if you work with an agency, they would supply you with like a 28-day or a 1-month report. So you want to be looking at that every month. And then as a business owner, looking at your conversion rate, if you're on Shopify, kind of Wix, they've got those figures in kind of a dashboard, reporting dashboard for you. Just look at it every month. Just see how it's improved. As a bigger picture, you would be able to know as a business owner, these are my kind of top converting months. And I know that between the months of September and December, that's when I make the most of my money. And then I know that in, January to March, they're my quietest periods. So we can kind of have a bit of an understanding of what our business journey looks like on a 12-month kind of scale. But ideally, what we want to be doing is always improving.
Yeah.
There's always ways to improve.
Yeah. And that's why you just got to stay on top of everything.
Yeah,
especially
always checking
the data.
Yeah.
Cool. How can businesses align their content KPIs with their overall business goals? How do they tie into each other?
If we're looking at what kind of our 12-month goals are as a business or 6 months or whatever that kind of time period is that we're looking at, I guess clearly defining what that objective is, whether it is we want to increase the brand awareness, we want to drive sales, we want to improve the engagement, we want to improve our customer service. As a bigger picture, what are we trying to achieve as a business? And then we kind of get specific and we say, okay, well, in order to actually achieve this objective, what are potential metrics or what are potential, KPIs that I can be measuring myself and my business against to say that, yes, we are improving. If it is around brand awareness and we are focused on, reaching more people and growing our followers. Okay, well, what is a percentage that we deem successful? Is it a follower a day? Is it 20 followers a day?
Yep.
What makes sense for the business where we're at right now? If it's sales, what does that percentage growth look like for us? And so I think having these really strong, bigger picture objectives and then KPIs that we can be creating content that's centered around that. So then when we are releasing content and we're putting, video or written content out there, we can go back to this content and say, well, this drove this amount of revenue or this drove this amount of leads. So then I know that I can create more of that style of content and less of this style of content if it's not working.
Yeah, okay. And what are the 3 KPIs you like to look at for a business? If it's it's an e-commerce business, and then we'll maybe do a service-based business.
Yeah, so I think if we're looking at, say, I guess it depends on certain platforms, but if we're looking at meta ads, for example, we'd be looking at like click-through rates because we want to understand if there's a lot of metrics, I should say, that we look at. it is quite hard to boil it down to 3 because they do interact with one another. So it's like we look at like our hook rate and our hold rate because that's the content itself, and we want to know if that's engaging, but then we want to know if people are clicking on it and landing through the website. So that's kind of the click-through rate.
So you're following it all the way
through. So you
through.
kind of follow the customer journey. And so that's, I guess, one of the benefits of Facebook ads is that you can really follow a customer journey with it. So you can understand, are people engaging with my content? Do they like it? My hook rate, my hold rate, my click-through rate. Are people actually then landing on my website? And then if that click-through rate drops off, is there an issue with the speed of our website and the performance of our website? And then once people land on our website, then we might be looking at, okay, we're an e-com business and we sell 20 different products. How many products are people looking at on average every time they visit our website? Is it 1? Is it 3? And then we can say, okay, well, people are on average looking at products quite a lot, but they're not adding products to their shopping cart. Then we can really identify at what point in that customer journey we're seeing people drop off. From there, we can then diagnose and fix our issues. So, if we're seeing that we have a lot of business, a lot of individuals or a lot of potential customers are getting to the website, so they love our content, they're visiting our website, they're looking at a lot of our products, and then no one's adding to the cart. So then as I guess like a marketer, you would go into it and you'd be like, okay, well, it sounds like there's probably an issue with our product pages. And that could be anything from, when our pricing strategy. It could be that we're not showcasing pricing options. So if you have Afterpay or Pay in 4, like those flexible payment options for people, it could be that your add to cart button is below the fold, which essentially just means that someone has to scroll to actually click add to cart. It could mean that maybe on average, we know that people typically buy one product. And when someone clicks add to cart, nothing happens. It just goes into a cart and a little pop-out happens. Where if, as a business owner, if I know that on average people buy one product, when someone clicks add to cart, I want them to go straight to the checkout stage. Right. So it reduces that step that someone has to take. It reduces, I guess, like the amount of work that a customer has to potentially do to close that sale. If I see that people on average buy 2 products, then maybe once someone's clicked add to cart, it sends them back to a collection page, or it has an option for like keep shopping. The Iconic does it really well. So I think it's just really understanding on that the average order value, the amount of products that people are buying in that order. So then you can really be customizing the customer journey on your website as best practice, but also to really align with what your customers are doing. So you're making that interaction as smooth as possible for them.
Yeah, it just goes to show you how much is involved in actually like from end to end.
Totally.
To be across it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a ton. There's a ton of steps that you've just gone through and all those metrics.
Yeah.
I know what it looks like on the Facebook Ads Manager and what you've gone through is,
Yeah. And there's custom metrics that you can set up too, depending on what your objectives are. So yeah, it can get quite deep.
Yeah. But that's what's important, because at scale, these are the things that matter. Yep. That 0.5% example that you use, the 1%, that is a huge difference. That uptick. Yep. So that's why it's super important to get these things right from the start and just know what you're looking at.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it can be a bit of data overload.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if you're running advertising and then you recognize that the conversion rate or the performance of your website's really low and you're not investing money in improving your website.
What are some common things to improve the website?
Yeah, good question. So, we could be looking at, that add to cart kind of process that we just spoke about.
Yep.
It could be the navigation of your website. So how easy is it as a first-time customer, if I land on your website, to navigate it? Is it clear? Is it easy? Do you have free shipping? Is it only shipping over a certain amount of money? Do you have Afterpay available? So essentially, conversion rate optimization, or CRO, is what we talk about. And it's just ways to improve the conversion rate of your website on the website.
Yeah, okay.
And it's all boils down to customer journey and buyer behavior.
Yeah, cool, cool. I think you have to have a look at our website, because our not click-through rate, but when you go on Google and potential customers are spending heaps of time on our website, but they're not converting.
Yeah.
Different conversation we'll have.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think, even like bounce rate and the amount of time that's spent on a page as well, they're all really important things.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. Make sure you're across it, that's for sure.
Definitely.
And when you're trying to track this stuff and all these different metrics, whether it's Facebook, Google, is there software or is there tools that you can use to track the content performance or the ad performance?
Yeah, totally. So in terms of like Facebook ads or Meta ads, obviously the Meta Pixel, super important. So having that embedded on your website. And then, using things like Google Analytics and making sure that all of that tracking is embedded on your website properly, because that helps with, the demographic that your customer sits in. Are there any other affinity groups or interest groups which can help with your Facebook targeting as well? The way that Facebook and Google Ads breaks down different demographics really bleed into one another. It can give you quite a lot of insight into ways that you can be targeting people on Facebook based on the analytics reports.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So once we've got that information, how best should us as business owners interpret that, and how can we identify trends with our customers?
So I think like setting up goals and conversion events that you want to be tracking is super important. And then reports. Yeah. So analyzing your audience reports, analyzing your conversion reports, your product reports. Again, all of this is available through your website, the reporting kind of system that your website has, also through all of these other platforms that we've discussed, Meta Ads and Google Analytics. And then I think also reviewing like your acquisition channels, so where customers are buying from.
Yep.
Again, going back to that customer behavior and their kind of like flow analysis or their journey into your business. I think a really quick way to do it is like obviously setting up a dashboard in kind of Google Analytics or in Shopify or Wix or whatever your platform is. Find out what, once you've identified what those key objectives are that you're trying to achieve over the next 12 months and you've got your KPIs and you've got your metrics, set up a dashboard. Obviously, the initial investment is the time to set it up.
Yep.
But then you can, as a business owner, jump in once a week, get a broad understanding of like where your business is tracking kind of month to date. So then you can know if you need to pivot or shift the strategy.
Cool. It sounds like from today's episode, you really need to start with that strategy on like what is the end goal and then work backwards and get super granular on what those day-to-day things are, what those metrics are, so you can achieve that goal.
Yes.
So we're starting with the end in mind.
Yeah, definitely.
And how do you come up with that? So if I'm a business owner and I come to you and say, I want X, and you think that's just absurd, how do you sort of gauge like what is achievable in the next 12 months?
So there's a really great Bill Gates quote that's essentially most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 5. And so essentially what we would do, say a business that was making $200 a month said, I want to make $1 million in my first year. It's like, okay, well, let's kind of scale back to reality.
Yep.
Great, that's an awesome goal. Let's put that in there for the next 24 months. What we need to do right now is figure out how we can get your business from $200 a month to $10,000 a month. That's our first goal, but that's not going to happen in a 2-month period. That could take us 6 months because we need to put the right structures and systems in place to make that possible.
What would those systems and structures be? Very high level.
Yes.
I know it's not that simple, but very high level. What does that look like?
Well, I mean, even going back to like business model, which I know you guys talk a lot about as well, which is like understanding like if I have an increase in demand and the supply, can I service that?
Yeah.
So have I got the internal processes, systems, procedures in place, SOPs in place that if my business does skyrocket, I can meet that demand? Yeah. And if I can't, then what do I need to be doing now over the next 6 months that maybe I can meet that $5,000 a month, but anything above that, I actually can't do it right now because I don't have capacity. So what we need to do is we start building it up to that $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then as a part of that, we also then build out these processes and procedures in place as a business, your overarching business model, your operational kind of health, so that you then can support that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because a lot of business owners will say that like, I want to go from 10,000 a month to 100,000 a month. Okay, cool. But do you have the supply chain in place where you can do that?
Yeah.
Do you have enough product to do that?
Yeah.
Do you have the extra 4 or 5 staff members? Do you have the capital to hire them?
Yeah.
How long does that take to hire? Like there's so many pieces to the puzzle where you need to take all of it into account as well, which is really interesting to hear you say that because a lot of the time it's the focus is just on revenue and that's it. But there's so much that's happening on the back end if the marketing campaign is successful where a lot of businesses will fall over.
Totally.
And look, they're good problems to have if you want to call them that because you've got too much work coming in.
Yeah.
but still a problem. And that can really affect your brand.
Absolutely. It can affect the reputation of your brand too. And if you've sold something that then all of a sudden you can't supply,
problem.
What do you do?
Yeah.
You know, and if that happens, if you are selling $200 a month and then you go and sell $10,000 a month, but you actually only have enough product to have sold $7,000, what happens to those customers that have bought the remaining $3,000?
Bad Google reviews.
Bad Google reviews, you know, or do they get a refund?
Yeah.
Or is there a delay in the product? And then obviously if we're looking at like our manufacturing line, you know, anyone that works in the e-com, particularly in the fashion space, knows that I have a date of like when I want to release this collection. That manufacturing process is always delayed like months.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to have quite a bit of lead time in there as well. So yeah, you know, without going too deep into it, there's a lot of things that come into play that you have to consider.
Yeah. It's very well-rounded as well. It's not just a marketing thing, but
totally.
it leans on operations. It leans on the finance side of the business too. So
yeah, which I guess is a benefit of like the Inflection Accelerator too, is that it helps business owners identify if we do want to scale, what does that look like? And what are the business structures that I need to set up to get myself there?
Yeah, exactly. It's very well-rounded.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that was a good episode. I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
It's there's a lot there, and I think there's some really good golden nuggets. If someone wants to reach out and get some help with all of this, what's the best way to do it?
So contact details are in the show notes. Alternatively, Inflection Marketing is the website that you can book in a discovery call and we can chat about the business.
Awesome. And we'll also put a link for the discovery calls in the show notes.
Yes.
Cool. That was awesome. Thanks, Zara.
Jordan.
See ya.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.